this is my third visit to Oberlin, therefore northeast Ohio, so I've got a reasonable picture for I've at least spent probably nearly two months of my life here. I don't know. Look, it's clear that the City Fresh program works. It's clear that it's got to a point now where it's got over its teething, and it's a mature enough operation that people come to work and they know what they're doing, and there's a cultural acceptance around it and all of that sort of stuff. So that's the first hurdle in any business, is getting over that sort of honeymoon period, if any, and getting a bit of maturity about your business. And that also involves the folks who are part of the relationships involved with something like City Fresh. It's not just the people who distribute the food and put it in boxes and do the stands and hold the stands and take the money and all of the rest of it, and the buying public. It's also the people who actually support, who produce the food and who are now gaining from that. So I mean, you've got a case study there. So I think if you've got a case study, well, and that already means you've got runs on the board, right? So you can start marketing from that. Now, you don't have to call that permaculture. It is a permaculture framework because it's fulfilling a lot of our objectives from within permaculture design. The farms are being developed in a regenerative fashion often. You've got localised food distribution, you've got some closing of loops. In fact, you've got some cycles of loops. You've got some cycles going on that didn't exist before, whereas before it is still a very leaky system. You've got all of this, you've got, like I say, $250 odd million worth of production, and you've got a $9.75 billion deficit to that potential going out of here. Now, it's obviously we're not tomorrow going to get all of that, but I don't know how many people actually know that. So I could go to county fairs, for example, with a snappy little marketing thing and start saying, "Hey, Mr. Farmer and family, do you know that this is going on? Do you know how much is leaking out of here? Do you want to perhaps establish some potential by changing some of your production methods and starting to engage in local food production? We've got a market. You guys don't ever have enough food, do you?" No, exactly. So I mean, and so it's just a matter of just putting the people together. Again, it's those relationships and creating the framework through which to do so. It doesn't have to be City Fresh. It'd be great if there were lots of City Freshes, whatever they're called. But you've got a model that's working, and it shows that here you are a food producer. You can now engage with someone who will pay you a lot more than what you're currently being paid, and that will then allow you to practice more the type of farm practices that you probably want to do, but you can't because in the current system, the subsidy framework, cheap energy framework, etc., doesn't allow you to do that. So there's a great example of a guy at home, Rod May, who's a good friend of ours. He's been a farmer, all his family have had the same farm for nearly 160 years, and he used to basically grow potatoes, broccoli, carrots, and I think that was about it, and he had some sheep as well. He spoke to some people about his operation, and they suggested, well, why don't you start moving? You're a vegetable grower, you do it really well, your soils are good for it. Why don't you start to move to growing, doing a box scheme where you produce in a small area an intensive amount of mixed vegetables, and you establish a relationship with 20 or 50 people every week for the growing season. He said, yeah, I'll give that a go. So he did. I think he's up to about 100 odd boxes now, and he's found that he doesn't need to, he's not getting this really low price anymore. He's actually getting the full retail price for his product. And he's got 100 people who now depend on him for his product, right? So he has a new sense of his place, and his family has a new sense of his place in the society, because now they have a relationship and they know every family that they're working with now, right, in that relationship, which I think is an extremely powerful thing. It's not just powerful financially, but it's also powerful culturally, because you now know who those people are, and you know that they're relying on you, and they know that you're doing the best that you can do to produce them as nutritious food as you can, and they know that you're actually getting rewarded for doing that, as opposed to being abused for doing it, which is currently, I can't put it any gentler than that. Agriculture is not just a form of abuse to landscape, but it's a human abuse system as well. It certainly doesn't display those principles of care of earth or care of people, and we won't even get to return of surplus because there's not that. So, yeah, I think, we've got to get out there, show these models, go to county fairs, and go to where agriculture actually operates. You can't frit around on the periphery. You've actually got to go right in there, and that's what I've done. And I have conventional agricultural clients as a result. If you go in there, and they're not going to take any crap. You're not going to go in there with half-baked ideas. You're going to go in there with good reason, logic, and work with them. Do it in a participatory framework, and so, all right, well, how do you think you can do this? What do you think your soils are capable of doing? What is your family capable of doing in a transition towards these models? Do you know people in the towns that might start buying your stuff? You probably do. You've probably got relatives who used to live on farms who now live in towns who'd be very glad to buy your stuff off you.